The Next Generation had Star Trek's strongest crew, and one surprising detail proves it. The crew of the USS Enterprise D on Star Trek The Next Generation have more superpowers than any other Star Trek crew. Star Trek may not technically fall into the superhero genre, but between aliens with enhanced abilities and advanced futuristic technology, the franchise has a lot in common with superhero stories. On Star Trek, the original series, the USS Enterprise of Captain James T. Kirk William Shatner had the half-Vulcan Mr. Spock, Leonard Nimoy, as a first officer. Thanks to his Vulcan side, Spock was stronger and smarter than a human, and had special abilities like the Vulcan nerve pinch. While other starship crews had Vulcans or augmented humans aboard, none had a roster quite as impressive as that of the USS Enterprise D. Throughout Star Trek, The Next Generation's 7 seasons, Captain Jean-Luc Picard, Patrick Stewart, and his crew faced off against numerous Star Trek enemies, some of whom threatened the entire Federation. Thanks to Picard's leadership and the abilities and intelligence of his crew, the Enterprise D almost always triumphed over its foes. In terms of special abilities and number of victories, Captain Picard has Star Trek's most impressive crew. Star Trek TNG's Enterprise crew had the most superpower abilities moreso than any other Star Trek team. The Enterprise D crew was full of talent in every department. Perhaps most significant was the android LT Commander Data, Brent Spiner, one of the strongest and most intelligent officers in Starfleet. Data single-handedly saved the Enterprise D on numerous occasions, as he was unaffected by viruses and other outside forces that incapacitated the rest of the crew. Thanks to his positronic brain, Data could also access information and complete accurate calculations incredibly quickly. In the position of Chief of Security, LT Worf's Michael Dorn Klingon strength proved useful, and his connections with the Klingon Empire occasionally came in handy as well. As a half-betazoid, Counselor Deanna Troi, Marina Sirtis, could sense the emotions of those around her, allowing her to determine when enemies were lying. Although Star Trek The Next Generation's writers did not always know what to do with Troi's abilities, she proved herself an invaluable asset to the Enterprise D. Rounding out TNG's impressive roster, LT Commander Geordie Law Forge, LeVar Burton, was not only a brilliant and highly skilled engineer, but he also wore an advanced visor, allowing him to see much more than the average human. Alone, their abilities were impressive. Together, they make the franchise's most formidable team. Captain Picard's Star Trek TNG crew never lost, although Captain Picard and his crew faced their fair share of challenges on Star Trek The Next Generation. They ultimately always triumphed. One of the biggest tests for the Enterprise crew came in TNG's The Best of Both Worlds two-parter, when Captain Picard was captured and assimilated by the Borg. While this experience proved incredibly traumatic for Picard and cost the Federation greatly at the Battle of Wolf 359, the Enterprise D crew defeated the Borg cube and rescued Picard. Thanks to the combined efforts of the Enterprise crew, they always managed to come out on top, even if it was a close call. In addition to the Borg, Captain Picard and his crew went up against Klingons, Romulans, and Cardassians, not to mention the many anomalies and space/time distortions they encountered throughout the galaxy. With Picard's leadership, the enhanced abilities of Data, Worf, Troi, and Geordie, plus the combined intelligence and talents of the rest of the crew, it's not particularly surprising that the Enterprise D suffered few significant losses on Star Trek The Next Generation. Throughout the series, the Enterprise may have lost crew members and been hit with a few setbacks, but thanks to the ship's impressive crew, they never suffered true defeat. Star Trek The Next Generation, TNG, has long been revered as one of the most beloved entries in the Star Trek franchise, not only for its captivating storytelling and exploration of futuristic moral dilemmas, but also for its remarkable ensemble cast. In many ways, TNG embodied the ideal of what a Starfleet crew should be: diverse, competent, and deeply united by a sense of purpose. While each iteration of Star Trek has had its standout crew, many fans and critics believe that TNG featured the strongest team of officers in the franchise's long history. What set TNG's crew apart from their predecessors on the original Star Trek and their successors in later series was their unique balance of professionalism, individual brilliance, and collective camaraderie. This was a crew that worked as a seamless unit while maintaining strong individual identities. The diversity in skill sets, temperaments, and backgrounds created a dynamic that allowed for both harmony and meaningful conflict, a delicate balance that has rarely been replicated as effectively in other Star Trek series. And there's one surprising detail that proves why this crew was the best: their reliance on diplomacy over aggression, a hallmark that aligned perfectly with the utopian vision of Star Trek's future. Captain Jean-Luc Picard. The diplomatic leader at the heart of TNG's crew was Captain Jean-Luc Picard, portrayed by the inimitable Patrick Stewart. Unlike his predecessor, Captain James T. Kirk, Picard was not a man who relied on brute force or charisma to lead. He was a cerebral commander, always willing to weigh his options, think deeply about the consequences of his actions, and seek diplomatic solutions where possible. Picard's measured approach made him a standout captain, one whose strength lay not in his physical prowess or willingness to take risks, but in his calm authority and ability to inspire confidence in his crew. One of Picard's defining characteristics was his emphasis on peaceful negotiation over conflict. Throughout the series, Picard often diffused dangerous situations through dialogue, reason, and a firm commitment to Starfleet's principles. This method of problem-solving, which prioritized understanding and cooperation over violent confrontation, was a direct reflection of the Federation's idealistic future. It was also a key factor in the crew's overall success, proving that they could be the strongest without having to engage in physical warfare to assert their dominance. The strength of diversity in skills TNG's crew was also notable for the incredible range of expertise each member brought to the table. First Officer William Riker, played by Jonathan Frakes, was a capable commander in his own right, balancing Picard's calm demeanor with his more hands-on, action-oriented leadership style. Riker's loyalty and trust in Picard were unshakable, and his presence ensured that the crew could excel in both tactical engagements and exploratory missions. Lieutenant Commander Data, the android officer played by Brent Spiner, offered a unique perspective on what it meant to be human. Data's quest to understand human emotions and his exploration of ethics and morality were key components of many episodes, pushing the crew to think deeply about what it meant to be sentient. His superhuman abilities and vast knowledge database made him an invaluable asset in both diplomatic situations and technical crises. The crew's medical expertise was in the capable hands of Dr. Beverly Crusher Gates McFadden, whose compassion and professionalism ensured that the health and well-being of the crew were always a priority. Her dynamic with Picard, especially in regard to their shared history, added emotional depth to their interactions and humanized the often intense situations they faced. Chief Engineer Geordie LaForge LeVar Burton was the technical genius of the group, constantly pushing the limits of the Enterprise's technological capabilities. LaForge's brilliance ensured that the crew could solve even the most complex engineering problems, while his warm personality helped to maintain the sense of family that was crucial to TNG's success. Worf, the Klingon tactical officer portrayed by Michael Dorn, added an element of internal conflict to the crew, as he often grappled with balancing his warrior heritage with his commitment to Starfleet's ideals. Worf's arc was one of the most compelling in the series, as he embodied the tension between aggression and diplomacy that was central to TNG's ethos. Counselor Deanna Troi, the emotional anchor,